Hey there, everyone. Welcome to ModGolf Live. Good to see you again. I am your host, Colin Weston, and today we're going to mix it up a little bit here. Last minute change. I had, unfortunately, my guest had to cancel on us. If a conflict came up there, is in something unavoidable there. So hopefully we have Haywood on the ModGolf Live show sometime very soon. We're looking in a few weeks' time. And then I thought, should I just not do a show? Should we just kind of let it go, forget about a week for a change? And 'cause we've been going for 13 weeks straight now. So I figured, you know what? Rather than not do that, let's just keep forging ahead here. Let's just, as we are with entrepreneurs, and at least the way that I'm built now, is like, let's just keep on going here. Let's mix it up and create something new. So or at least something that's a little bit different. So decided today I'm going to join you for the questions for me that you want to ask. You can definitely do that. Uh, but the key here is that consistency piece. That don't stop, keep going, and just figure it out as we go. Because for me, it would be easy. Let's say if I didn't do a show this week, and then all of a sudden there's a bit of a gap, and then perhaps I get out of the ritual of doing it, and then I'm like, you know what? Maybe I won't do a show the following week. And the following week. And then, that I do one once a month, or maybe it's kind of sporadic. And I will say that for the audience that we have here, and I know we've already got a couple of people joining me, so thank you for that. Then all of a sudden, you don't know when we're going to be on. And if that's the way it rolls, then, you can't have that dependency that we're going to be here and keep building every single week and creating something. Because I know we've got some people that love to join, even though we normally do it on Monday. Doing it on Tuesday this week, anytime there's a holiday Monday, and we just finished up Labor Day long weekend. And I hope everybody had a very relaxing and fun and recharging weekend, ready to hit the ground running here in September. Seems like business always picks back up after August. So yeah, here we are on Tuesday, and I'm going to start the show with something that I normally do. But before I do that, I want to say that since we are live interactive on YouTube, I've already put a post on there on YouTube there. Hey, thanks for joining me today on ModGolf Live and doing an Ask Me Anything session today. So what's on your mind? Ask me, ask away. Hopefully you stick to golf. Don't ask what the meaning of life is or anything that's too existential in that way. I'm not formally trained. I can't really help you out in that area. Although, hey, if that's where we want to go today, that's where we will go. So yeah, about the future of golf, anything on your mind, entrepreneurial innovation, whether it's in the golf industry or outside of that, if it's got to do with design. I think most of you know my background in architecture and experience design. Definitely applying that to the golf industry. So yeah, let's just have a conversation here. I do have a few things I want to talk about, or at least kind of put out there for conversation. So just let me know what is on your mind here. So as we get started, let me pull down the comment here. There we go. Okay, so one thing I did want to mention is that you see on the bottom there. One of the things that we've created around ModGolf Live is this community of innovators, people, whether you're in the golf industry, you just love golf. I've done over 200 episodes now, or close to it, almost hitting that mark over, almost 8 years since the spring of 2017 that we launched the ModGolf podcast, and a couple of years ago launching the ModGolf YouTube channel. So something we launched just a few months ago, and that is our Patreon community. So you may ask, what the heck is Patreon? So Patreon is this great platform that we can really get to know each other. We can really connect, and I'm offering you kind of a deeper connection with everybody in the golf industry, and also providing want to call it premium content, or the opportunity to win free golf gear, and that's something that people love. So with the ModGolf Patreon community, and I do encourage you to join. You can see the URL at the bottom there, patreon.com/ModGolf. And we've got almost 100 people as part of our Patreon community. We got almost a dozen people that have been gracious enough to be monthly paid subscribers, that $5 or $15 a month tier, and that really helps me out, just cover production costs here with ModGolf and everything that we're doing here. So big thank you to everybody there. And Mike O'Brien was our big winner last week, winning winning a wedge, actually an Edison Golf 2.0 wedge that I know Terry Kohler, the founder and CEO of Edison, is sending out to Mike. So we're going to have our next ModGolf giveaway next week. So yeah, like I said, we're always getting free gear, and we're going to keep sending that out there to you as part of our Patreon community, as a way of saying thank you. That yeah, you can win free golf stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about here today is, to bear with me here, of course, because I am my own executive producer and the host, so I'm multitasking here. So normally, since we host on the show on Monday, that I do what's called the Colin's Monday morning musings. You know, what's gone on the last week or so, whether it's in golf or just in life in general. But since it's Tuesday, I'm still trying to workshop the branding of this, whether it's Colin's Tuesdays Trials and Tribulations. Maybe it's Colin's Tuesday Tantrums. I don't know. I never really have a tantrum. I try not to. I try to breathe and stay calm, whether it's after I hit yet another bad shot on the golf course or miss another putt. No tantrums. You know what? Let's kind of stay calm here. So yeah, we'll stick with trials and tribulations. So one thing I want to talk about, this is an article that was through our friends with the first I was going to say morning read or kind of the first call, excuse me. Gee, I need my morning coffee here. It is still morning time here in Vancouver. 9 a.m. when we started, noon back east there. So thank you everybody that's joining us from the East Coast. But yeah, still in the morning, still waking up here. So what I meant to say was our friends with the first call. And if you're not familiar with the first call, yeah, great daily newsletter of all the great things that are going on in golf. And they've supported the ModGolf podcast for a couple years now. So yeah, going to be giving them more of a shout out over the next couple episodes here, because they're doing great things. Stuart Hall has been hosting that and moderating that for the last couple of years. So thank you, Stuart, and thank you everyone at the first call, and the good things that you're doing around supporting the golf industry and providing great information. And this is an article that they had, and this was posing the question: has golf become boring? And yeah. This is on the heels of the FedEx Cup wrapping up on Sunday, and the format there. You know, they figured that out. They have to do something new, and I've been since we started in the golf industry more than 10 years ago. Myself and my business partner, and really our response to golf, what we looked at, we on a week by week basis, being kind of boring. It's like needing to shake that up. And what we created, and I talk about that next week. Why don't I talk about that more with Ripped Links, our first venture in the golf space of what we did, really a response to golf on the decline back in 2013. And fast forward a decade later, even though we've got, between TopGolf and the gamification side, and how golf now with technology and graphic overlays has become more visually compelling. But still, the storyline here with the FedEx Cup, I didn't watch any of that this weekend. I was actually out playing golf and watching the U.S. Open tennis tournament, because that's something I just find much more interesting. Where, yeah, Scotty wins $25 million, but to be honest, it's not like that's really that compelling of a narrative, because he's already a multimillionaire, as all the guys that are in the top 30 that are playing. So really, the money's not the incentive anymore. At least I can see. Yeah, sure, that's still life-changing money, but it's not like the storyline is this guy is Scotty's been like scrapping it out, driving his car, from tournament to tournament, and this is life-changing money, because he's already got I don't know if he's already got $100 million in the bank or not, but he's doing okay. So as far as the money, has never been a compelling story arc. And even just the championship with Scotty, they've reworked the last couple of years since he's been in first place, so he gets a couple stroke lead over Xander Schauffele, I believe, who was second. But ultimately, it's just not that exciting. So how do we shake this up? And in this article with the first call, they were talking about, do we actually experiment a little more there as the bit of an off season until things ramp back up, until really a lot of people consider golf doesn't start until the Masters in April. So this is a big 6-month downtime that we have. Yes, obviously, end of September, we've got the Ryder Cup, and we also have the President's Cup that's coming up in Canada, in Montreal, in the next couple of weeks, which I'm excited about. But ultimately, you want to call it silly season or just down season, you don't have a lot of compelling stories going on. So maybe it's time to mix it up. Maybe we need to do a Rip Links event like we did, where action sport meets golf, and we do some fun things there in a tournament format. And yes, Tiger and Rory in the springtime are looking to launch with their Monday league there, with the big screen virtual sim and the technology around that, and the team format. But ultimately, there's not a lot going on. So even in this article, they're talking about, well, perhaps we have a bit of match play. Maybe we do Stableford, which is still just kind of tweaking other formats that are already out there. So maybe it's an opportunity to really shake things up. So that's what I put out there. Once again, I'd love to hear your comments. Has pro golf become boring? Do we need to shake this up? Are you interested? Leave it in the comments here. Is this something that, do you watch pro golf? Do you not? If you love golf, maybe you just love to play golf. So yeah, love to hear your comments. So hey, if you want to get that conversation going, ask away. Let's go there. But so one thing on the show I was going to talk about today. Yeah, but the ModGolf podcast been going for 7 years now, as I mentioned, almost 200 episodes. So I'm going to do a bit of a countdown. I'm going to do the top 5 most listened to episodes of all time. And what I love about the ModGolf podcast is these back catalog, as we call it, these back catalog episodes. People still listen to these. I promote them. They're still relevant. They're called what we call evergreen. That means they're still relevant 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 years later. I'll be honest, not every single episode is that way, because I've covered entrepreneurs that are starting up companies, and some of them are no longer doing what they're doing, or they moved on to something else. But I would say of like the 195 episodes or so that we've done, I would say about 95% of them still are evergreen. And as I go back to see the analytics and the statistics with our podcast host platform, that a lot of these episodes people are still listening to and still commenting on. So that's what I'm going to talk about here today, just to let you know what the top 5 listened to podcasts of all time have been on the ModGolf podcast. So hey, I'm going to share my screen here with what we're going to do. And I'm going to start here with, I think it's this one here. Yep, here we go. Okay, so number 5, and that is with my good friend Amy Cho. So Amy Cho is the 5th most downloaded and listened to podcast episode of the ModGolf podcast. And if you're not familiar with Amy, such a great story. Talk about entrepreneur, innovator, and influencer, and a bit of a disruptor. So wears all those hats, those things we love to talk about on the ModGolf podcast. So I met Amy at the PGA show in 2018. So when I was there, the show runs in the conference center in Orlando from the Wednesday until the Friday. But on Tuesday, they have what's called demo day. So they have a bus shuttle, takes us out to this big 360-degree driving range. So all the way around it, there's all the club manufacturers and suppliers. Everybody's out there hitting balls and testing equipment, kicking the tires. And from a distance, I see this young woman that is has this big sash on that has her name on it. It almost looks like she's competing in a beauty contest. So it was a bit fun the way she did it. And it talked about her, and it had kind of a YouTube logo on it, and Amy just starting out as a YouTuber. So Amy's played professional golf, and she is an LPGA Class A certified professional. So what Amy has done, Amy's American, but has Korean roots. So I just love the way that she's actually created multiple audiences with all the great things that she does on YouTube and on Instagram as a golf influencer. And what she does is has great golf tips because she has a certified coach, but she has an audience. So every single piece of content that she creates, she does it in English and also does it in Korean. So she's got these two massive followings uh, uh, on both Korea and, as I said, and also in North America. And and what's really interesting with Amy is the type of content that she's created and the following she has. I don't have the numbers right in front of me right now as far as the size of the audience that she has, but she is definitely at that level. Not at a Rick Shields, 5 million or 2 million followers, but yeah, she is definitely in that six figures with up to, I think, at least a 250,000 followers. So creating great content, and her personality is so positive and infectious. Just love everything that Amy does. And she was just last week I saw on YouTube. So they had what was called the Creators Classic. So I think a dozen or 16 of the top YouTube golf creators, content creators were on there, and Amy was one of the ones that was on there playing, and she did very well. She was actually battling for the 9-hole championship that they had at East Lake before the FedEx Cup final round there. So yeah, Amy's still going strong. Love what she's doing, and yeah. So Amy Cho, number 5 on the list of all-time listened to episodes of the ModGolf podcast. All right, so we've got, let's say we've got number 4 then. Let's bring that up. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Once again, I am my executive producer here while I'm talking. So forgive me here if I'm kind of pushing the wrong tabs here at the same time. Okay. So we've got number 4. So number 4. Here we go. And that is when I visited. So this is back in 2018, no, 2017. So this is actually the first year of the ModGolf podcast. You can see, so episode 1 of season 2. So this is the 14th episode. I'm sorry, 13th episode, because I do 12 episode seasons that I ever did. So I got invited, because this time the Golf Channel owned the World Long Drive property. So I went to just south of Tulsa, Oklahoma, to a resort and casino that has long drive facilities. So this is the World Championships. So I've done over the years, I would say about a dozen episodes where I've just gone out into the field. I've gone to events, whether it's the PGA show or I've covered live events, and I'll go there. And to be honest, I don't even know what I'm going to be covering. I let the story kind of reveal itself. We'll spend the first day just talking to people. This is before I was doing anything on YouTube, so it was just audio that I was doing. I wasn't shooting any video. So was covering the long drive championship and met some of the amazing women that were in the long drive competition and some of the guys. So this was really interesting of covering this event. And just from this, I find even to this day, even though this is World Long Drive from, 7 years ago, people still listen to this episode. I find, because just the conversations I was having, really interesting stories there. And a lot of these people you actually know now, whether it's Troy Mullins, actually a woman that was at this competition, and she's done all kinds of great things in the golf space now, and a few of the other competitors that have gone on to become golf influencers and social media and doing really interesting things there. So, hey, if you do want to hear some great stories with some interesting characters from World Long Drive, I would highly encourage you to go back and listen to this episode also. What I will do after the show, in the show notes, I will have all the links to these episodes. So nice and easy for you to listen to those if you so desire. Okay, so that was number 4 of all time, World Long Drive. Me there live interviewing people and covering the event back in 2017. Okay. Next up, we've got the 3rd most listened to episode of all time, and that is, if we can find it here. This is an interesting one. So this is from 2019. So this was right when the rules of golf were updated. So I managed to connect with Dale Jackson, who was on the joint rules committee with the USGA and the RNA. So just through the kind of lens that I look at things, there's other people out there that know the rules better than I do. I do not pretend to be a golf teaching professional at all. I will never give you swing tips because my handicap is getting worse, not better, because I'm playing less golf. I'm almost back up to an 18. I'm a 17.4 again after getting it down to a 12. So yeah, not going to be giving you any advice on your swing situation here. But what I found interesting here is I took a bit of a different stance with this one with Dale. So I really asked him to pull the curtains back. So I was more interested in the 3-year process leading up to the release of the new rules of golf. And yes, we did talk about some of the rules, the biggest changes. But what I found most compelling and most interesting was how did they arrive by consensus to that backstory of where they ended up with the release of the players edition of the rules of golf, and some of those have really made an impact to speed up the pace of play. Whether it was the option of keeping the flag in while you're putting out, which now seems quite natural, especially after COVID. But for years, that was like a sacred thing. You must take the flag out. Big penalty if you don't. And some of the other rules, such as if you double hit the ball, especially when you're chipping, that was extremely punitive. And that being more relaxed, it's already a bad enough penalty that you're double hitting the ball there. And other ones that maybe compared to professional golf, as compared to recreational golf like I play, that they should have 2 sets of rules, and one that I'm just going to put it out there to everybody that I still think they should change, and that is the penalty of you hit a beautiful drive, stripe it down the middle, and you actually end up in someone's divot, and then trying to hit that ball. And sometimes it could be, quite punitive. I know a lot of times people, both sides of the fence here, saying, you know what, that is part of the beauty of golf, is just like life, that sometimes, bad things happen to good people. Bad shots are not rewarded, and that's just the way it goes. And yes, there is a certain elegance to that and connectivity. So I don't have an answer for this one yet, but ultimately, I think it's kind of fair that if you end up in someone else's divot, that perhaps you get a bit of relief there and on the fairway, since you actually hit the fairway. I'll leave that open for debate. I don't have the answer on that one exactly, but hey, circling back here, the third most downloaded, listened to podcast episode of all time with ModGolf is the collaboration process behind the scenes of the new rules of golf. This one with Dale, yeah, really interesting stuff. Just his insights there. I just went back and listened to that one a couple of days ago, and yeah, still holds up. It is evergreen, and like I said, all those rules are what we're dealing with now in 2024, 5 years later. Okay, so next up, number 2, the second most listened to episode of all time of the ModGolf podcast. So pull up here. Here we go. Sorry, struggling a little bit here. Like I said, my executive producer, aka me, is doing a terrible job here. Okay, so the number 2 listen to episode of all time. Drum roll, please. And this is interesting. This is the first episode I ever did, released in the middle of May of 2017. So a bit of a quick backstory with the ModGolf podcast. And even the origin story for me is like, why did I create the ModGolf podcast? How did I go about doing it? So we rewind the tape a little bit further to the summer of 2016, after our first couple of golf ventures, that we had levels of success and then connectivity with what we were doing. Yes, the big one we were doing, Rip Links, I talked about earlier, almost got acquired or invested in by TOPGOLF and also by TaylorMade Adidas Golf. Both of those things didn't happen after about a year and a half. And then pulling out of those, looking back at them, it's like, well, what were the gaps that that I had and our business had in the golf industry. Since we were never in the golf industry in the first place, we kind of stumbled into it a couple of years earlier and then pushed really hard. We weren't really connected in the golf industry as far as who the players are, or the decision makers, even how the industry worked, how media worked. So these relationships that I had already just through Topgolf and some others that looked at this and said, you know what? No one is, as far as podcasting goes, is talking about the future of golf, is talking about entrepreneurship and innovation, whereas in other industries and even in sports, podcasters were having these conversations, and that was their platform, and that was their unique selling point, I guess you can say, their differentiator. So I looked at this and no one was having these conversations in golf, and I said, maybe I should have those conversations, even though I had no idea how to make a podcast, had no idea how to host a podcast, had to learn all that. So all the technical side, and had a good friend in Toronto that had a business podcast. So he not only mentored and encouraged me, but also pushed me, basically strongly encouraged me, I guess you can say, without shaming me into creating a first podcast episode and doing that. So what I did in the spring of 2017 is I reached out to people I knew in the golf industry, and it wasn't really that many. And Ron Powers is a good friend of mine who I worked with when we were doing some consulting work for Topgolf in the design realm. And I reached out to Ron and a handful of others and said, hey, considering doing this golf podcast in the innovation and entrepreneurship space, I don't really know how to make a podcast yet. Would you be a guest on the ModGolf podcast, even though no one may listen? No, two people will listen, because Ron, you and I will go back and listen to it. So we may get 2 downloads, 2 listens, but otherwise I'm still figuring all this out. Would you be a guest? And that just goes to show that you need to put yourself out there and just ask. And if you don't ask, you don't get. Like, the worst thing that could have happened is Ron could have respectfully said, you know, Colin, I don't have time. I'm really busy. Could have made it up excuse, or just, that's not really Ron's style. He'd just be very straightforward and say, no, I don't think that's really a fit for me. But he was extremely gracious. And Ron said, yep, Colin, love what you're doing. You and I are friends. Happy to make that happen. So episode number 1, which I did go back and listen to multiple times. And I do cringe when I listen to this because I am so nervous, and even my delivery is not very strong, but that's good, because if I'm not saying I'm a professional broadcaster by any stretch, but the fact I've done almost 200 episodes, I've done a ton of live shows now, and what I've done, I've just got my reps in. It's like going to the gym. You build up endurance, you build strength, you build flexibility just by being consistent, which, circling back today, as I mentioned, maybe I'm not going to do a show today. My guest wasn't able to join me at the last minute. Maybe I should just go, nope, I'm not going to do it. No, keep going, keep putting one foot in front of the other. And I can only thank Ron. I cannot thank him enough for being that first guest. And then I looked at this as like, okay, I'm going to do a 12 episode season. Maybe no one listens. Maybe I am really bad at doing this. Maybe there's only 12 stories out there. Maybe all the above. But the more I started doing this, the better I got at it, the more people I got introduced to. And then we did a season 2, which we already saw earlier with the 4th most downloaded episode or listened to, which was with World Long Drive. And it just kept on rolling and kept on rolling. So yeah, that's exciting, because people still listen to this episode. So I find with this episode, and that's also something I've learned, that how do people consume the content once they discover the ModGolf podcast? What are they going to do first? One thing they've done is they've listened to the trailer, which I just updated. So this 3-minute trailer, the introduction to the podcast, they will listen to that to kind of dip their toe into the podcast. And then, since episode 1 is right there, I think it's a matter of convenience of where it shows up in the feed, especially on Apple Podcasts, where most people are listening. That makes complete sense. So, hey, I do see, we've got 5 people joining us now. So I just want to put this back up here. Thank you for joining me today on ModGolf Live. As I said at the top of the show, our guest was not able to join us today. Hey, did that stop us from having a show? Absolutely not. I then spent an hour really quickly. It's like, okay, I got to put some content together. Let's just make this thing happen. So, hey, if you've got any questions, just in the chat here, just ask away, whether it's about golf, whether it's about life, hey, just put it out there. Whether you want to know more about the top 5 podcast episodes of all time that we've had here, just ask away. And yeah, I'll do my best to answer that question. Okay, so the second most listened to episode of all times was the very first one I ever did. As you may know, we're just finished up season 15. So yeah, it's 15 times 12 plus the bonus episode. So yeah, we're getting close to 200 there. Going to be launching season 16. Going to have another dozen episodes for you for the rest of 2024. So I'm super excited about that. We're going to keep on rolling here with ModGolf Live each and every single week on the Monday for the most part. Like I said, unless the Monday's a holiday, then we'll do the Tuesday. But that consistency. So you know what? We're going to be dependable. We're going to be reliable. We're like that good friend that just shows up to help you move or whatever you need there. Whenever you need something, not just for the good times, but also for the bad times. So yeah, we are there with the ModGolf podcast. Okay, so drum roll, please. Gee, I guess I should have queued up an audio soundbite here for the drum roll. It's the best I can do. All right, I know, super exciting, right? But here we go. So now, with no further ado, I'm going to share with you the most listened to podcast episode of all time with ModGolf, and that is with, interestingly enough, the only guest I've ever had on that's never picked up a golf club ever in her life. I think maybe she's played, putt mini golf with her friends and family, but as far as picking up a golf club, never. So this is really interesting, the insight here, just as far as what people want to listen to. So with Blue Ocean Strategy, I've talked about this business methodology many times on the ModGolf podcast, how it relates to, let's say, TOPGOLF and really half a dozen or more other golf ventures and businesses and products that we've covered on the ModGolf podcast. So this is really interesting. And the quick overview with the Blue Ocean Strategy, New York Times bestseller list many times over, and they've Professor RENÉE MAUBORGNE and her co-author, they've released a couple other books since Blue Ocean Strategy, but this has sold millions and millions of copies. So I had the good fortune of writing a blog post that was hosted on the Blue Ocean Strategy site, and I found this out also, the power of partnerships. I know one of the reasons why this podcast episode, by a factor of more than two, next to the one with Ron Powers and TopGolf, our first episode that was the second most listened to, that the reason this has been so popular is because of that reach, because of the partnerships that Blue Ocean Strategy has and continues to promote this podcast episode. So we get the audience of people that love Blue Ocean Strategy that listen to this podcast episode because it's all about RENÉE, not necessarily all about me. I know that. Park my ego at the door. It's about having fabulous guests on the show, of which I've had even the top 10. I've had some big names on the podcast. We're going to continue to have that. Really exciting news I'm about to announce of some guests that we're going to get locked in for the next season for the rest of 2024. But yes, great lesson learned here that it is about partnerships. And hey, if you can align yourself with other businesses, other products, other platforms that are much bigger than yourself. And there's great value for them too, because they had never covered any stories in the golf space. So they were very interested in this. So there was that value exchange. It wasn't just them giving and me taking, because then why would they lean in? Why would RENÉE MAUBORGNE, who's an extremely busy and sought after speaker, sit down for an hour with me on the ModGolf podcast? Because they saw this opportunity to kind of extend or cast a bigger net for them into the sport realm, and how Blue Ocean Strategy relates not only to sport, but also to the $100 billion a year golf industry. So there you have it. There's the top 5 most listened to episodes of the ModGolf podcast of all time, with number 1 being Professor RENÉE MAUBORGNE, co-author of Blue Ocean Strategy. As I said, more than twice as many listens than our number 2, which still blows my mind. And I still look at the numbers every single week without even promoting this one, even though I still make a point of promoting these back catalog episodes and the relevance of it. But yes, so Professor Renee Marbone, love her, and in fact, hoping very soon to actually get her back on for an episode of the ModGolf podcast. I know her schedule has been incredibly busy, traveling all over the world, but who knows? Maybe there's a chance that even for our upcoming season, that I can get Professor Renee Marbone back on the ModGolf podcast for an update, because it's been easily 4 years or so since we last had her on with that. So there we have it. So, like I said, I wanted to make this interactive. I see people, we got a couple people on joining today. I guess you're a little bit shy today, not wanting to ask a question. And you know what? And that's okay. No problem with that. So yeah, as I said, rather than not doing a show today, and like I said, there's a lot of reasons every single day. Even getting out of bed some days is, can be a challenge. It's like, or even getting out the door off the sofa to whether it's going to the gym, whether it's going for a walk or just doing something, getting started is always the hardest thing. But once we got rolling here, like I said, 36 minutes into it, and you can't keep me quiet now. But yes, you will keep me quiet, because I am going to wrap up the show here. But before we go, as I've said on the bottom there, we do have. I have put it out there that, love you to support what we're doing. Not only how it benefits me with the ModGolf podcast by joining our ModGolf Patreon community, but the benefits that we have for you also. So yes, once again, you get access to exclusive content, access also to the almost 200 awesome innovators and entrepreneurs, the guests that I've had on the show, and I'm connecting you with them through the community there we have on Patreon. And as also I mentioned there, as a little extra bonus, we're always doing ModGolf giveaway contests, and next week is no exception. We're going to be rolling out our next one. But you got to join our Patreon as far as a monthly tier subscriber there to get the benefit of that. So, hey, why don't we wrap this up here? Once again, I'm Colin Weston, host of the ModGolf podcast, and also the ModGolf YouTube channel. Thanks so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great week. Hope you're ready to hit the ground running after a restful and relaxing Labor Day long weekend. And I look forward to seeing you again next week, Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific time, 12 noon Eastern for ModGolf Live. So, all right, have a great week, and I will see you soon.